Hi everybody, it's Susan here again. Today we're going to do a tutorial on how to paint the head of a puffin in pastels. I'll be using soft pastel chalks and also pastel pencils, and my favourite cotton buds, of course, to blend them all in with. So the first thing I will do is I've already drawn it, and now I'll start to do the beak. I'll start with a lovely orange colour for the beak to highlight the little beak end, and what I'll do is I'll use pastel pencils to start with. Puffins are one of my favourite birds. We have a lovely place just up the road from us called Holy Island, and off Holy Island there's some National Trust islands called the Farne Islands, and they're full of puffins and seals. So I think puffins are becoming quite popular at the moment, and I certainly love them. So as you can see, I'm just going to fill in these parts with pencil. The beautiful thing about pastels is that, unlike coloured pencils, if you're not happy with the colour, you can actually mix your own colours on the page, as I'm doing here. So I wanted a more orangey colour for the end of the beak, so I've put yellow on top of a reddy colour, and it gives you a little bit more of the highlights there. And then all I'm going to do, as I usually do, I'm going to give that a little bit of a blend with my blending stick, which I sometimes call my rubber stick, whatever you like to call it. They're very useful. So now I'm going to use a pastel chalk in white and put some white in between there. And if you look at a bird, they never have, or anything in nature, nothing is absolutely perfect. You don't really have straight lines. So we're going to blend that in a little bit there. And I'm working today on pastel matte paper, which really absorbs the pastel really well. So over here I'm bringing in a brighter orange for the beak up to there, and a little bit more at the bottom of the beak and underneath. And we'll just blend that in a little bit just to push it into the paper so that we can add more colour on top if we want to. I find that pastel pencils are much easier to use when you're doing detailed work like this. It looks messy to start with, and you always have a point in a painting where you think it's never going to come together, but they usually do. You just have to keep working at it. And we'll use a little bit of brown now because there's brown highlights in here too. Got a bit of a dirty end to his beak. He must have been catching fish or digging in the sand. And then I'm going to highlight the top here a little bit with a bit of, it's not white, it's just sort of a grey white. And again, blend in. I'm working from a photograph today. I'm going to make that orange a little bit lighter, so on the top I'm just adding some some more yellow, and I'm going to bring it round to the top of his head there, and then I'm going to actually dull that down a little bit with this grey, and then I shall put some brown on top of that to dull it down even more. The board I'm working on today is Pastel Matte Paper by Clairefontaine. And so now this part of the beak is black, so I'm using a pastel, soft pastel chalk for this one. I get a really deep black. And just a little bit of a highlight there for the beak. As I said before, I don't really like to make things look too much like a photograph, because photographers have their own skills and us artists have different ones, and we are different. So there I have some highlights. I just put the white there, and I'm just going to blend it all in, and I'm going to use my favourite cotton stick bud here to blend it in. Bit of grey at the bottom here, and a little bit there. Once again, we'll just blend it in. And in order to define his little beak, I will use the black pastel pencil. His beak's not straight, it's sort of a few wiggles in it. I'll just give that a little touch with the blender. And we've got a bit of shadow here. You just have to keep looking very carefully at your subject so that you are able to hopefully make it come to life as best you can. I like to try and find the soul in each creature that I draw and show their personality. And here we need a little bit more of a highlight. I'm bringing through the texture of the paper here to give me the detail that I want of the texture of the beak. So you can see those little dots that have come up. They give a great texture. And I'll do the same here at the top. I'm just using this spreader. I don't know what to call it, whatever it's called. There is a proper name for it. Because I've got quite a lot of pastel left on it, so I thought I'll just spread it over and do my highlighting on top. Some little details here, little dots which we will rub in. I usually end up with about 20 pencils in my hands at the end of this, so forgive me if there's a crash. So there's the beak. The beak is nearly complete. Just a few little odds to put on there. Just another detail there and there of the orange. So now we'll start on the head, and I'll pick out the dark bits, and I'm using black first as my underlay. And now the lighter areas, and I'll go for a more of a grey. Again, we're just giving an impression. We're not looking for every tiny little detail of every little feather. It just would take forever, and you get just the most beautiful picture as an impression rather than a detail. But everybody likes to do it their own way. This is the way I like to do it. Pick a little bit more darker grey, I think, there. Just again to show where the darker areas are. And now I'll take my cotton bud and I'll just give that a little rub, just to blend everything in. You're just going to build up the layers again, the way we've done before. And you're going to do this a few times until you actually reach a point where you're happy with it. I'm just sort of twisting this around a little bit to give the impression of feathers. And now we come to bring in the whiter highlights. And I'm just using a lovely white Faber-Castell chalk, whatever you prefer. But for the larger areas, it takes a lot of coloured pencil. So if you use the chalks, they go a lot further. And now I'm going to give that a lovely blend. Just to give you the shades and the shadows in the different parts of the face. We're just building up the layers. I can see there's a little bit of blue. I'm going to bring a bit of blue in here to detail. And then blue up there. And we go for this beautiful white Just going to give him his little collar here. And I'm just going to blend all of that in. So now I'm going to do a little bit of the eye, just to get started. So I'm going to do the outline of the eye to start with. I will exaggerate the eye a little bit. And then on the inside a little bit of yellow. And black. And we're going to put some white in the corner there. And then I'm going to rub that in. And then I'm going to use a little bit of white in there. And I'll rub it in. Because we're looking for a grey. Blend it in. And soften the edges. Soften the edges. Soften the edges. And then I'm going to just take a bit more black around here, just to highlight it. And then there. And then a little bit of brown in here, just to give it a bit of depth and detail. I'm adding grey here because it's a darker area underneath the eye. And we're going to put a darker grey on there, I think. And again, we're going to blend that in. I'm going to try and bring the creature to life so that your page is no longer flat and that the bird will fly away. Twist the implement to give you the impression of feathers, and pull the colour around. You can almost use this as a paintbrush. And then to highlight the areas, of course, you can take your pastel pencils just to give a little bit more detail. So by using the pencils in conjunction with the chalks, you give yourself far more options. You can play. So I've put lots of little details onto the face with a pastel brush, and now what I'm doing, and I've used black, white and grey pencils, and I have used made the directions of the marks in the same direction as the feathers, just to give an impression without it being absolutely every feather in place. And now I'm just blending it all in with my trusty cotton bud. Move the cotton bud onto the thicker pastel chalk to give the impression of feathers. And layers. So I'm just going to make this a little bit darker under here, a shadow. And here. And I think I'll have a little bit here as well, a little bit more shadow. Up, over, crop. So that's the crop of the bird. Push your thing push the rubber right over the beak. So I put the marks onto the face, and I have used a cotton bud to actually blend it all in. And now I'm going to do the crop, which is yellow, a mustardy sort of yellow. I'll just do the outline, and then I'll do the highlights in orange and brown. I need to highlight the top of this because that's where the light's catching. To highlight the top of that too. And just fill it in. Again, we're just going for an impression as opposed to perfect photographic replication. Now I'm just going to blend that in. Beautiful. And the eye actually needs a little bit more highlighting on the inside. And I am going to use my tiny little bit of pastel chalk . Dotting a little bit of pastel in there, and then just again blend it in. Just gives the eye more life. So there we have the face done, pretty much. And the feathers will just bring over a bit more like that, the black feathers, blend them in, blend them in, blend them in. A little bit more black, I think, for more feathers. And then I'm going to use my grey pencil to give some details. Again, impressions. Just going to show where the light shows and is shining on his collar. The darker bit, and then there's the lighter bit. And then we're just going to complete the head. You can clean up any marks you get on your board later with a putty rubber. Again, I'm using black pastel chalk, just a quick sketch in the way that you would move your feathers. And then I'm going to use again my cotton bud to blend that in. I'm moving it up and down in the direction of feathers again. And now I'm going to take my beautiful white chalk, vibrant, I love this white, it's a unison white, and I understand that Unison is in Northumberland in England, which is of course where I'm working from, where I live and where I come from. It's the northernmost county on the east coast of England for those who don't come from the UK, and we're right on the border nearly with Scotland. I'm adding a bit of grey here just to blend it all in, just to add a few highlights, and then again I'm going to use my cotton bud to blend that in. I just don't want to waste this pastel, so I'm just pulling it in, rubbing it in. And you just want to give the impression of feathers. So I'm taking the black over it again, just over it, because I want to draw the graduation of tones from the top, and now I'm going to blend that in. So there we have our simple puffin drawing in pastels. Thank you for watching. I'll put a list of the equipment I've used at the end of this and on the page, and you may well find that if you want to leave me a message, I'll be able to get back to you on that. Thank you. Bye.